It's been a long week, as I'm sure most of you know. Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September 10th by a radical left-wing lunatic. Now, the media has been trying to downplay it. They've been trying to say that the shooter was a Trump supporter or a groyper. Now, we all know that's not true. The FBI, the governor of Utah, all of them have come out and said that, yeah, this guy was radicalized by the left. He was raised by a good Christian, white, Republican family. But he went to college and then within a year was radicalized. Now, his parents, family, friends have all said that he was the most left-leaning of the entire family. But they didn't realize it got this bad. Now, despite all of the lies that you've likely heard about Charlie, the quotes taken grossly out of context, he was a good, God-fearing, moderate Republican conservative. He didn't have extreme views. He didn't try to force his way of life onto anyone. All he wanted was to have a conversation. He set up tables, just like this one. Nice collapsible tables, sometimes with a tablecloth, to sit down and conversate with those who vehemently disagreed with him and who he disagreed with. Now, a lot of the times, the debates would devolve into yelling matches on behalf of those who would walk up to him. He would obviously defend his position with as much grace and dignity as he could afford. But he almost never resorted to name-calling. As far as I can remember, as far as I can tell, he never did resort to name-calling. He would say the left is unhinged. He'd say these people are radical. But I don't think he would ever call them stupid, idiots, morons, maggots, less than humans. He did refer to George Floyd as scum one time because George Floyd was. He was a career criminal. And one of his most recent arrests prior to his death was holding his pregnant girlfriend at gunpoint. So, just a wonderful human being. But no, Charlie was killed during a essentially change my mind or prove me wrong event at UVU in Utah. He had just set down the mic after someone asked him a question and then was shot through the neck. And according to medical experts and those who witnessed it and doctors who have given their perspective, likely died instantly due to his posturing. When his arms came up, likely it severed his spinal cord and he was gone just like that. He had spoke, set down his mic, it didn't even leave his hand, and the next thing he heard was the voice of Jesus saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now that phrase over the last week was hard for me to say because just thinking about it and how it applied to Charlie would make me cry or tear up, well up, whatever. It was just hard for me to say. But now, based on what's happening around the world, the mass revival, the global awakening due to Charlie's untimely murder has really opened the eyes of people all around the world. The last number I saw was just a couple days after his death, that there were over 17 or over 20 memorials, wakes, vigils, whatever you want to call them, being held in over a dozen or two different countries, which is incredible. It just goes to show you Charlie's impact was not just domestic, it was worldwide. But of course, good things cannot go unpunished. These vigils in the United States were being attacked and vandalized by the godless left. Those who spew hatred, but at the same time attempt to preach tolerance and peace. The left is incredible at projection. They say you're the Nazi, yet they shoot you for speaking your mind in truly fascist fashion. Now, some of the quotes that Charlie has been misrepresented in is one of the biggest ones, one of the largest offenses, empathy. Now, his quote saying, "I really don't like the word empathy. It is a new age term and has caused a lot of damage." That's usually where it ends. The period is there, and that's where leftists like to quote it. They don't go any further than that. They don't dig any deeper than that. But if you listened to that quote for just another 15 seconds, you would hear the rest of it. He does not end it there. He says, "I prefer the term sympathy. I prefer the term compassion." Because daring to say that you feel empathy for someone is attempting to say that you are capable of feeling the exact same emotions that they are. No one is. No one is capable of feeling the precise emotion as someone else. Compassion, however, compassion is the effort to understand their emotions. Sympathy is the attempt to understand how they are feeling, not claiming that you know how they feel. That he's taken out of context so many different times. Another one of the large ones is saying that the Civil Rights Movement was a mistake, that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Now, at that verbiage right there, yeah, it can sound bad. But if you listen to the rest of it, he says, simply because it wasn't written very well. He loves the intention behind it. He loved the intention. But in today's day and age, it is being abused by the government in the attempt to say that if you don't allow men in women's locker rooms, if you don't allow men to compete in women's sports, that these are civil rights violations. This was not the intent of the Civil Rights Movement. This was not the intent of the Civil Rights Act, to allow men into women's private spaces. That's all he meant by it. I don't know if you realize, but Charlie had many Black, Asian, African, Hispanic friends and allies. He wasn't racist at all. Just because you don't like what he said or how he said it or didn't listen to his entire statement does not mean that he was racist or sexist or xenophobic, homophobic, any of that. He was quite the opposite. He was an idyllic Christian. He was as close to an apostle as you could get in the modern era. He spoke, he preached, he lived the gospel as best he could, while furthering the gospel as we are commanded to do as God-fearing Christians. And if you don't like that, then you need to search your own soul and figure out why. So, the shooter, Tyler Robinson. Many people on the left, especially the news media, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all of them, they are all guilty of trying to say that he was a MAGA supporter. He was as far from being a MAGA supporter as you could possibly be. He was a far left radical, as the FBI and the law enforcement of Utah have proven. They've released his texts between his trans boyfriend, boy trying to be a girl. What Republican conservative do you know that is in a homosexual relationship with a trans? That doesn't happen. Also, he etched on bullets, or he etched on the cartridges of the bullets he intended to fire at Charlie. One of them said, "Hey, fascist, catch." What Republicans do you know that call each other fascists, or call anyone fascists for that matter? Another one said some furry fandom nonsense about, "Ooh, notice that bulge," or some disgusting, degenerate nonsense. He was the furthest thing from MAGA. And that's really all there is to it. He was a leftist, but the left refuses to acknowledge it. And if they do acknowledge it, they cheer for it. They're happy it happened because they hated Charlie, although they didn't know why. Many of them didn't even know Charlie's name until he was killed, and then they were told to cheer for his death, and so they do. And now many of these people are getting fired for publicly celebrating and cheering for the demise of Charlie. Now, usually I would be against First Amendment violations in the public, but in this case, I will make an exception. It is one thing to say, you know what, this person didn't really affect me, I didn't know them, so I don't really care about their death. That's one thing. It's a totally separate issue to come out and celebrate the assassination, the unlawful murder of someone because of their political ideology or their religion. You hated his speech, so you kill him. Do you understand how violent that makes your entire ideology? When you are challenged and you have no retort, when you have nothing to come back with, you resort to violence. Now, many on the left will come out and say, well, according to the ADL, the right wing commits 78 to 90% of all political violence. But that's just not true. The ADL, they don't cite the Ferguson riots. They do not cite the George Floyd riots. They do not cite the murders, the murderous killings of right-wing figures or right-wing supporters. Aaron Danielson, he was murdered in public in Portland for being a Trump supporter. The ADL doesn't count that. So if the ADL doesn't count deliberate political murder, why would I trust their numbers? I don't. I don't trust their numbers at all. Based on all empirical evidence, video, news, and otherwise, left wing, by and large, has a monopoly on political violence. And that is totally uncontested. And if you try and fight it and say, oh, but my January 6th, you can sit down. One person was killed that day, and it was Ashley Babbitt, a Trump supporter. She was killed by Capitol Police. Other than that, yeah, lots of arrests, but they've all been pardoned since, except those who were grossly violent towards police, which they should be locked up. The overwhelming majority, though, I'd say over 90% of people who were there were overwhelmingly peaceful, much like the mostly peaceful but fiery riots during the George Floyd Summer of Love riots that lasted 6 months, killed dozens of people, and ended in billions and billions in damages across the country. On another note, a happier note, Jimmy Kimmel lost his job because on air he was lying, deliberately lying, about the motives and the political affiliation of the shooter. He said, oh, it was a MAGA. MAGA's killing their own. Why aren't they mad about that? Why are they trying to lie? But in reality, he was lying. And according to reports, he was going to double down on it, I think tonight or last night. He was going to double down, say even more horrible things about Charlie Kirk and us on the right. And believe it or not, It wasn't Trump that got him off the air. It was the FCC chair and the news stations themselves, the owners of the news stations. They were like, hey, you need to chill out. This isn't helping anyone. You're supposed to be a comedian. This is supposed to be a late night comedy show. But here you are, igniting the flame of civil strife. And you wonder why you're being let go. And now tonight, Stephen Colbert doubled down for him. But because of course he did. I believe Stephen Colbert is trying to get fired because his contract's already going to be over. He's got a few more months left and then he's done. He needs to ride off into his little communist sunset and stay out of public life. But you know what? I don't really care about Jimmy Kimmel. I haven't cared about him in a long time, especially once he went radical left after, doing his blackface jokes and the Man Show, where, according to the left, he should be canceled for the things that he said and did. But because he's an ally of the left, they won't do anything. Now, something that did recently happen, I believe it was today, Congress, the liberals and the Democrats in Congress, refuse to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy. Because of course they do. They hated him. They hate free speech, except when it's something that they say. They hate you, and they hate me, and they hate anyone that is not on their side. No matter what we do, the left will say that Republicans and conservatives and those on the right are existential threats to our democracy. But what they do not tell you is that their democracy is not democracy at all. It is their grasp, their hold on power. That's why they do not say our constitutional republic. They say our democracy. Because to them, democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. That is democracy. A constitutional republic is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. But the sheep has a gun. And they do not like that. They will do everything they can to take the gun away from that sheep. And just like in true Democrat fashion, they hate you. They hated Charlie. Even though all he ever tried to do was bridge the gap. Bridge the divide between left and right through conversation. Something that the Democrats have always said, hey, we need to sit down, we need to talk, we need to cool the temperatures, we need to lower the temperature of the country right now. But the one man who was trying to really do that, they killed. The biggest thing that recently happened was just the other day, Trump came out and declared Antifa a major terrorist organization. Antifa is a worldwide terrorist organization. Now, you got liberals who are going to say, they're not an organization, it's an idea. There's no one person at the top. Then tell me how they organize so rapidly and so quickly to riot and protest anytime something does not go their way. Who supplies their gas masks? Who supplies their clothes? Who supplies their plastic barrel shields and their spray paint and all of their resources? Who supplies that? So Trump declared them a major terrorist organization, and they are going after the funders, the people who are funding these organizations, which are likely George Soros and other Democrat super PACs. I hope he finds them all. I hope ICE, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, destroy them all, lock them up, and throw away the key. Because our country cannot be safe until these left-wing radicals are locked away. A quote that I saw just the other day to wrap this up: if the left chose peace, there would be peace. If the right chose war, the left would not exist. If the left would simply be peaceful and stop killing us, gun crime would drop by 99%. But alas, they love their guns when they can kill us with them. We're going to miss you, Charlie. I signed up for Turning Point USA. We'll see where that goes. This is my first video in a very long time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.